So this next session, the customer success team at Unily have really been bringing it to my attention for quite some time. So when I kind of hopped on the discovery call with Anne-Marie, one thing that I was particularly struck by was just how everyone in the project team, both in Unily, also in WSP, was so knowledgeable, so passionate, and so aligned about the strategy. And it's really rare actually seeing such alignment across all of the organization and everyone involved. So, hopped on a discovery call with Anne-Marie, and she's a really great personality, as you'll see in a second. But what I was really intrigued about and why I thought this was such a compelling story was that the more Anne-Marie spoke, every layer that we revealed was another area of excellence. And so even over the course, every call we hopped on, I was like, this is an area of excellence. We need to discuss this. And so you kind of hear us reference these 4 areas of excellence throughout this session. And what's really great is that Anne-Marie has been pivotal in driving all of this global change. And I know there's some of the UK team in the audience as well who have been really a big part of the journey. So please welcome to the stage Director of Global Digital Experience at WSP, Anne-Marie.
But I'm not gonna wake up, I'm not ready, let me have another day. Don't wake up, keep it steady, cause I'm happy, I'm not gonna wake up, no, not yet.
So I promise we didn't actually coordinate with like 50 Shades of Emerald, but that's how aligned we are, as aligned as this project. So let's get cracking. This is kind of a fireside chat style interview, so if you have questions that come to mind, you can already start submitting them in the app, and we will get to some of them later. But first, I really want to firstly, thank you. You come all the way over from Canada, so I really appreciate it, and that's how passionate we were about your story.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So you're a really big part of this story, so I'd really love to hear from you. Just set the scene, a little bit of background on who you are, your role at WSP, and kind of a little bit of your background as well.
So basically, I lead a team of digital experience, and we're really a cross-section of marketing, communications, technology, and we bring this all together, and we partner with our peers in marketing and communications to bring to life the strategies that they're trying to bring, and essentially bring forward enterprise-level technologies to do what we do and build what we build.
Amazing. So, digital experience, and what's really cool is you said you're at the like intersection of like marketing, communications, and I feel like that's so important. It's a forward-thinking type role that a lot of organizations don't necessarily get to see, and hopefully see why that has impact in areas of this presentation. So WSP, I spent a lot of time learning about WSP. We've gone through all the use cases. I've seen how it's used in people's day-to-day roles. But tell us a little bit about who WSP are.
So WSP is really the leading professional services firm providing strategic advisory, engineering, and design services. We're a leader in environmental and ESG rankings. We're 68,000 strong and growing, with a presence worldwide and a very strong presence here in the UK. Let's say that. Also, we've had 140 acquisitions plus since 2006, so just an incredible amount of growth.
Wow.
Even from the time that I started working with WSP, it literally doubled. So incredible. And at the end of the day, it's all about our people. The passion they bring, the technical excellence.
There's something specific that I want to pull out, which is about that strategy of growth and acquisition. Can you tell us a little bit about why that growth is happening and how it's kind of happening and how that kind of feeds your strategy?
So obviously with this rate of growth, when you're so focused on growth, maybe you're a little less focused on how you do things. So now we're at such a level that it's coming to bear. We need to get to another level of organization and operational excellence. And if I could just lean into the strategic pillar that really ties into our project is simplification. So anything that we can do to basically make the employee's life easier and really for them to focus on their work and what they do best instead of procedures or red tape and the like. So you started to translate there what that strategy means and then therefore what that means for the employee experience. Can you tease out a little bit of the vision that you kind of have for
the platform and what that means for the WSP employee experience. What does it look like for EX and WSP? Lots of.
Yes, one thing at a time, please.
Yeah.
So really it's under this sort of backdrop that
Yep.
the vision came to life. So again, probably like many communicators are experiencing in their own transformation coming from obsolete technology, and I would say real need to unite and come together. So it's sort of under this context that the vision came to life.
Yeah, we love uniting. So yeah, on brand for us too.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of your vision. What I'm particularly interested in is a project of this scale. When people are looking into kind of digital transformation, typically an intranet project isn't at the top of your list.
Yes.
How did it all come about, and why did you pick this project now out of everything that could have been done?
So just for you to know, I think this is a project that's been percolating for 5 to 10 years. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
And, of course, we had an obsolete intranet, information overload, all the kind of stereotypical kind of things that you would imagine. But I think the game changer was our growth.
Yeah.
And what this intranet or digital experience could be and what it could do for the organization, rather than think about fixing what's broken.
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of what shifted the conversation with senior leadership, because they were not getting excited about us crying over an obsolete intranet.
Yes. Okay. So, from like a WSP employee perspective, so part of that is to do with trying to align those new employees and bring them into the experience.
Yes. Exactly. So, we've done a lot of research throughout this project. There's been also separate research that's been done. And of course, with the amount of new employees we're bringing in as new hires and from acquisitions, the digital experience was really key. So again, just feeding into that.
Yes. So as we were kind of like discussing in the run-up to this conversation today, so your platform's called Canopy, right?
Yes.
So if we say Canopy, that's what we mean. So I kind of reflected that, like I said earlier in here, that there was like areas of excellence. The first thing that I heard or I understood in your story was that first area of excellence is essentially the groundwork that you did.
Yes.
So many people think, right, let's just renew our intranet and you buy a new platform, but actually you guys really invested in the groundwork and it's paid dividends. Can you tell me a little bit about the groundwork, the history of the project, and what you got out of that?
Yes. So the first thing that's been absolutely amazing, and if they're watching, I'll say thank you, but we have an amazing steering committee made up of our global leadership team, so like senior leaders from the highest levels really supporting us, giving us resources, helping us when we have roadblocks. So that's number one. Number two is we sort of took a step back and said, you know what, before we look at technology, we're going to take an agnostic approach and really sort of assess what are our needs. And it's at this point where we hired Deloitte Consulting to really help take us through. And we did, approaches like, what's the textbook method to get the best result? And really, this is what we did. There's no magic, no secret. We did quantitative, qualitative surveys worldwide. We did interviews of senior leaders at global and around the world. We did focus groups with managers and employees at delivery levels in US, UK, and Sweden to try and get a cross-section. Art of the possible sessions, everything that we needed to do to come up with this new vision that perhaps we couldn't imagine for ourselves had we not done this work. Because one of the issues we faced is we couldn't ask people, like, what do you think a new intranet should be? Because they just couldn't imagine. They were so used to what they had. So that's why it was so important to have Deloitte and to look at that. And then once we had all this information and research, then we turned our attention to what was the best partner platform for our needs, and this is where Unily came into play.
I remember seeing like some slides with your personas and things like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
That's something in particular that caught my attention, because I've spoken quite passionately about, like, for some reason, we understand our customers inside out. We build these
Yes.
really detailed personas. We know what makes them tick.
Yes.
But then when we create intranet or digital workplace personas, they become like these 2D ChatGPT generated ideas of personas.
Yes.
But what you see in front of you is not that at all. It's something so layered. You understand your employees, and this is the value of the groundwork that you did.
Yes.
Specifically, actually, I'm really interested in, like, the personas and stuff. What sort of, like, research, you said quantitative and qualitative, what sort of stuff did Deloitte kind of help you do to get to here?
So in terms of the personas, it was a very interesting exercise because they took all that work and then they actually, with the focus groups, they said, oh, these are all the problems that came out, and how do you see solutioning for them? So that's also what helped define the personas. I think in general, it confirmed our sort of business intuition of what they thought they were, but it highlighted certain very specific areas that also created another sense of urgency for the project. Again, relating to the new hire, the employee coming from the acquisition, because we saw again, and we're told another way, that they were perhaps, or no, they weren't perhaps, they were sort of the least satisfied with their digital experience. And they perceived that coming into WSP, they perceived this as a digital downgrade as compared to their personal lives or what they would expect of a company such as WSP.
So you've got these really cool personas. How did that then make a bet? How did that then ultimately impact a better digital experience?
So what it did is help create empathy. So, you know, rationally, a senior leader will, oh, yeah, I understand who my employees are. And for example, Unily will often talk about internal communication needs to be more like marketing. So if we think about it in marketing terms, the client or the customer is always king.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the employee, it's not always clear that the employee is king. And when you're having conversations, it's kind of like a tension or a struggle between what the leader might want and what the employee might want. So having those personas really helped us to align you know, the needs of the employee and the needs of what leaders are trying to communicate and get out there.
Yes. So those needs, you then basically, you started with the personas, that's great, you understand your employees better, but you then basically like mapped them. What you can see in front of you now is a lot of people stop at those personas. And you're like, okay, cool, we know people now. But then, like, how do you then apply that? And like this journey mapping, digital journey stuff, I think is like really cool. So this is people that I already hear people taking pictures. But like this is something that is, okay, we understand those people. How do we remove those barriers and create a frictionless experience?
Yes. So I think, you know, when we looked at this research, then we came into the use cases.
Yeah.
In evaluating the platform. So we had a use case specific to, for example, for new hires. And so when we're evaluating the platforms, I know we talk a lot about journeys, but I think what we liked about Unily is the employee needs are inherently met in the platform that we chose and our content strategy. So I think that's how I would answer that question.
Yes, for sure. So that's our first area of excellence. So that's the kind of like groundwork, which is you can't just go straight to the tech. You have to start at like understanding, okay, who are our people? What do they need? What are the barriers? How do we remove them? And what's the tech that we need for that?
Exactly.
So now moving on to a little bit of the techie stuff, what I would call your second area of excellence, which for me is the personalization aspect.
Yes.
So that persona type stuff is the work of a lot of marketers, and what marketers use that persona and that digital mapping for, one of the outputs you get out of that, you definitely have that marketing type mindset.
Yes.
The reason you do that is because you can offer them more personalized experiences, and we know personalization is better to engage customers, and so therefore, of course, you would get that with employees. Can you tell us about why you were focused on creating a really personalized experience and how that ends up manifesting for your employees?
Well, I think if people have the control and they feel like they can, you know, for example, select their topic tags, they'll be naturally more engaged. And so we had a two-pronged approach to this. So one is...
So your topic tags are your, like how you
the themes of the content.
Yes,
exactly.
okay,
Exactly. So, so the pull strategy. So an employee arriving on the platform can select all the themes that interest them, and then on their homepage receive those themed articles that they're interested in. So that's the first way. And when we were in implementation period and with our implementation manager, she's like, yeah, maybe you want to think about doing that later on, and you really need to have the content to back it up. But for us, it was really important because it's signaling a complete change in the way that we communicate with our employees. So that's the first way. The second way is obviously the push communication, which all organizations need and do in a targeted manner. And this is where we kind of have a layered approach. So targeting by perhaps office location, targeting by province or state, country, region, global, all within the same widget and within the same page. So the idea is, at the end of the day, whatever the employee is seeing, it's relevant, it's seamless. And the idea is, we want to deliver that content and meet the employee where they're at. Whereas in our previous model, there was a special intranet just for global. So if you wanted to know about global, you would go there. And then, all these different destinations that people had to go to. And the result is, well, they wouldn't. So this is our approach to personalization.
So you spoke earlier about your kind of like strategy where you really want to support local and regional experiences. What's like an example of like a local or regional experience that's different?
So again, I think I almost take this for granted, but what we say is we're going global through regional deployments. So at the moment, there's no global version because the global content is being surfaced through our regional version. It's teased in, right? It's a kind of a Trojan horse strategy. So, for example, we started with the UK, so we deployed Canopy in the UK. And then in our Nordic regions, and then in the US, we're in the process of implementing Canada and Latin America. So it's kind of a reverse approach, but in the end, I think it's best because, for example, in the Nordics, or say in Denmark, for them to have their experience completely in their own language. It feels very local, but then still be tied to global. So they're feeling that power of being intensely, connected to their region, but then also to global. So it's achieving that duality.
Cool. I really like that. And do you find that actually, especially as part of your strategy when it comes to acquisitions, have you found that that's paid dividends? Because I guess when you're acquired by a business, I guess one of the things that an employee is thinking is, what now happens? What's our identity? And actually, you have some really powerful local businesses that are passionate about what they do and they're excellent. And so, I guess that's a great way to support them. But still support their content and give them access to global stuff too.
Right. Well, I'm gonna completely jump ahead with my answer if that's okay.
Go with it.
So one of the things that we're working on is giving access to acquired employees before they're actually integrated from an IT perspective. And by doing so, not only are we able to give them access, then we're able to ring fence them and deliver specific content and target them and give them that special welcome, that special experience, welcoming them into the canopy.
So. Okay, so got our first area of excellence, which was your groundwork, the second area, which is personalization. I want to move on to the third area of excellence, which, there was actually a little animation there, which I forgot was happening, so that's my fault.
I think this is your hallmark.
Whoops. You see there, in animation, how, as an employee, there's that personalization literally from the top, which is around naming so that it feels like it's personalized to you. You've got your local content, but then you've got the things that you followed, plus you've then got your global content teased in as well. Now the third area of excellence, which is, for me, it was something that this wasn't part of, when we discussed originally, we were great, you've got a great story around global and local content, weaving it together and bringing people into the WSP brand with a really personalized experience. And that was kind of our whole angle. And very late in the day, we kind of had like a practice to kind of talk about some of the key things that were coming out. And you used this term, internal SEO.
Yes.
And I was like, what do you mean by that? And you've always been quite passionate about applying that marketing mindset. And that is a concept taken directly from marketing.
It is.
Can you, how do you kind of facilitate the sharing of that concept? Can you, actually, there might not be people in the room that kind of know or understand what we mean by internal SEO. What did you mean by that?
So, for example, for an external corporate website, one of the marketing strategies is to do search engine optimization so that when people are searching for your product or service, you come up in the Google search results so people can find you and click to your content. So similarly, on Canopy, we wanted to apply the same principle. I don't even think we thought about it so much that way in the beginning because we were just thinking about doing good content in plain English.
Yes.
As you can imagine, as a firm in our industry, we have acronyms like probably in the hundreds. Teams love to brand themselves with all kinds of different names and more acronyms. So it was a big education process to explain to people to use simple English, normal English, and try to think about how people would search. And I have a simple example, and it's the one we actually use all the time. And I have to credit Natalie, who's in the audience. So essentially, for example, we have an app to book workspaces called Flowscape. So if you have a new employee, they're not going to know what Flowscape is. They're going to talk about, how do I book a workspace? So the title of the page is Book a Workspace. It's not Flowscape. So yes, we'll integrate the name of the app into the page, but in simple, normal English, help the employee navigate and find their tools and their way around the digital ecosystem that is WSP.
The acronym and removing some of that jargon, I think, is so important because especially, and I'm probably guilty of this in different ways as well, especially when you're in an organization, you spend a long time there, you come up with certain isms of things that are WSP isms. It's like, A, you're starting as a new employee and you're using terminology that is inaccessible. And then B, with your strategy around acquisition, what you don't want is different parts of the business referring to things as different things.
They'll be so confused.
Exactly.
And so I think our thinking is going even a step further. If you make content for a new employee, in fact, it's going to be just better and easier for all employees. So really thinking in that term. So we've even created a playbook on this, and it's part of our onboarding process when we go from country to country deploying Canopy. Nice.
So the reason we picked up this strand so much was because we, at Unily, we kind of look at the data, and yesterday I spoke about Kersner, and they were our top mobile adopters. What we found here is that you had our best click rate. So what that meant was people, they're finding your stuff on the second click link. Explain that a little bit.
Exactly. So the click rank is the average is 2. Exactly. So again, if I just refer back to, let's say if you think about Google, the higher the click rank, it means the better that your content is optimized because you want to be number 1 or as close to it. So similarly, we want people to be able to find the content, in position 1, position 2, like they see it immediately and they're like, wow, this is efficient. I found what I needed. I click and I go. So that's what that is all about. And we didn't know, actually. It was our
success.
That he brought up. It's like, what are you guys doing to have such a good click rank?
Really? You're like well above the Unily average, and it's really good. So it's actually impacting your there's a literal time saving there.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the thing is, if that's ever a part that you fail on, that there's like that thing about Google, which is like, if you don't find your content when you search, instead of like going to page 2, you just go back and research and try and find it. So what you don't want is people in a loop trying to find that content, and the fact that you have a click rank average of 2 is sick.
Exactly. And I think when we were discussing, the way I personally view it, it's like the if we're to do the Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a digital experience, search would be at the base. And, we need to establish trust with our employees because they're coming from a place of, they think that the internet is, well, actually, we didn't have a functioning search, but we needed to wow them. So they needed to go to the platform for the first time, conduct a search, and find exactly what they need. So it's like the first step for us to, on our journey with Unily and building this experience that we're working on.
And so we've gone through that approach that you have and the mindset that you're looking at removing the jargon. We've also, you mentioned a little bit about how you optimize the content a little bit.
Yes. So there's two things. So I know what I need, so I'm going to search.
Yeah.
Or we want our employees to discover things that they need, but they didn't necessarily know about. And so this is where I will call out to Eliane, who came out with a really super clean aesthetic, so that even if you're just sort of glancing at the page, you're going to glean something of the content that's being presented, and to really make the content coming out of the communications team sort of be a star instead of just having a super cluttered page that you don't, your eyes don't know where to focus.
And that's where I think there's a really real global value add, which is if you optimize the content, you may come across something that you didn't know you needed, but actually might be like a valuable document or a valuable news information to help kind of share that knowledge across the globe, but you still got your relevant stuff.
Exactly. It's all about being relevant, almost like it doesn't matter where it comes from, and to give it that seamless experience to the employee so that for them it's just, oh, okay, it's there, and, the fact that they might not have to think about it too hard would actually be a compliment. So
you also, you don't just stop at the content, but you also pay quite a lot of attention to the analytics and the data. And I know you encourage a little bit of internal competition as well.
So, well, Natalie doesn't know yet, but that's the board.
Live reveal.
Yeah, I have my whole team here. So this is one of the things that we're looking at is this click rank by region.
Yeah.
And we're comparing the different regions and seeing. And we had one of our regions that was recently in beta and they had a very bad click rank. And we're like, ooh, what's happening over here? And we told them it needs to be 2 or better. And then, of course, in their sort of beta period, they realized, they got feedback about missing content, missing apps and tools, and by the end of the beta, they were at a click rank of 2. So I think for us, this is an important metric that really helps to drive the quality. And if it slips, then at least it's a conversation that we can have. Why is this happening?
Yeah, and I think that internal competition bit is good too, because I think so many people don't. It's a way to make sure that people put the effort in because no one wants to be on the bottom of the list. And so you mentioned the term beta there.
Yes.
And I kind of want to use that to transition to our 4th area of excellence, which for me is, I hear so many stories and there are so many people that put so much effort into the right product, they've got the right features, they may have done all of that groundwork, but when it comes to the adoption, they don't get the adoption they want because they haven't mastered that business change element, or they launch with a big bang, but then it loses all of that hype. And so you really had a strategic roadmap and approach to your business change. You've been quite smart about it.
Yes.
Would you tell us about what your approach to change management was to roll out?
For sure. So on a regional level, we chose first to work with a leading region. Because our strategy was, if it's going to work well with this first region, then we'll have all the others, clamoring to want to deploy as well. Because this was a project that had been percolating for so long.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, what was that word that was used this morning? Cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, yeah.
When we first were coming with the project, people didn't almost believe it was happening, to be honest. So our goal with the UK is to really make a smashing success, to sort of blow open the doors so that then we have the path and the road forward to start deploying with other countries. So that's part of the strategy. And then in terms of the organization, and then it's the strategy with the actual employees. So again, like you said, we did all the research, but with the UK, for the very first time, we we didn't know what kind of reaction that we would have.
Yeah.
So we got the idea of doing a beta
Yeah.
with employees, and it's an idea that we actually got from Unite 22.
Yes, ELC. Yes,
from the
companies spoke about it. Yeah.
Exactly. So we decided to have a beta period for about a month.
Yeah.
And a combination of volunteers and different people that were put into the beta group, and really was a period where content could be refined, improvements could be made, but in a sort of safe space without burning bridges with the employees. And then not only that, I think it built confidence for the teams. You know, we could understand that people were liking it, and if there were pieces of missing content, it could be addressed. And when we were ready finally to launch to the, wider employee population, we were, confident.
Yeah. I thought the change management approach was quite refreshing because like a lot of people just launch with a big bang and don't really understand actually you have to be so strategic about it.
Yeah.
And I know you're really grateful to the UK team for the effort that they've put in, but it's kind of really paid dividends because you've got that hype and people see something. You haven't worked with a region that won't put the effort in and people see it, but actually it's got hype. People want to come into you.
Yeah, well, we were fortunate because it was, a beta can go one of two ways. It could be like, oh, the feedback's really bad. Yeah. But in our case, the feedback we got was more about like optimizing, refining, and the feedback was amazing. So it almost created like a sense of like demand from, like when is it coming? When is it coming? So it creates a kind of buzz.
Yes. And also I think that beta concept, I know we've spoken about it twice now, but it's really about expectation management and also like dedicating time to listening and taking on board that feedback. Because the reality is, yes, you put in a load of groundwork, but once the employees have it in their hands, they'll be able to shape it. And you don't want to go out all on a limb and be as confident as like, yeah, we built the best platform ever. But actually, because it's built by the employees, it's kind of ground up. And I love that you've built that into your process.
Exactly. And we want to continue to do that, to continue testing, continue surveying, to continuously improve the experience.
So moving on to kind of how you're tracking the success. Is this the right slide? Yes, it is. So how are you basically tracking how effective that launch strategy is? What are the kind of data points you're monitoring? Because I know they're quantitative and qualitative, whereas people get hyper-fixated on one thing and you have quite a few things you're looking at.
Yes. So I think the main one, honestly, is just we're looking at sustained usage. Yeah. Because that means that people are enjoying the experience and they're coming back day after day, week after week, month after month. So it's not very sophisticated, but getting out of the gate, that's kind of an important KPI. We're looking at conversion rates on the workspaces, the click rank. We're very interested in, obviously the amount of people that are personalizing their content, so that showcases their engagement towards the platform. And of course, we're like looking at anecdotal feedback, again, more surveying, anything we can do to collect information. There were post-launch drop-in sessions, all kinds of different things to sort of gather information. Yeah.
You mentioned a bit about some of the feedback was about like optimizing, and you've also had feedback at like all levels of the organization. You've consciously done that. Like that was a conscious decision. What are the sorts of things you're hearing, and what's like a bit of feedback that you've kind of taken on board and then implemented?
Via the launch?
Like it could be about the launch, it could be post-launch, it could be in that like beta phase, anything?
I think it's honestly the actual functioning. We really received rave reviews. Yeah. I mean, platform's super stable, everything is well functioning. It was always around missing content or a link or something that couldn't be found because as a team is preparing to launch, there's so many links, tools. I mean, it's just incredible. Our people are not, they're working with digital tools to do their job, and there's just so many in every direction. So just gathering all that and getting into the system is a feat.
Cool. So I know obviously you're still in your rollout phase, and you're well on that journey, but I'm sure there are like things you've got your eye on that you want to start rolling out. Like in terms of the future of the platform, what are the sorts of things you're looking towards?
So I would say in the immediate future, we're looking at rolling out the branded mobile app.
Yeah.
And specifically here, again, with our partner in the UK, targeting field workers. And similarly to the session yesterday, we really feel that that's the optimal use case for the branded mobile app. So we're looking forward to that. We are experimenting with the broadcast center.
Yes, building emails and email.
Correct. And then, of course, the one that I'm most excited about is giving access to employees from acquisitions, because this is game-changing, because an employee coming through an acquisition didn't choose to come to WSP, even though I think they should be super excited about it, of course, but they didn't choose to come to WSP. So anything we can do to make that onboarding experience welcoming, informative, helpful, is going to help the business, and it's like directly supporting our objectives and what we're trying to do as a company. So it's very exciting.
I know you've worked really hard on like trying to bake that into basically the acquisition process. So it's kind of like as you bring people into the family, into WSP, that actually they get quick value out of it.
Exactly.
They're able to see
they
what
can
you're
connect
all about,
with their
see the
peers,
people. Yeah, exactly.
share information, share
Exactly.
expertise, all that good stuff.
Amazing. So that kind of concludes our main discussion. And there's 4 areas of excellence. Now you can actually ask questions directly to Anne-Marie. So we have our Q&A section. You can go to the Unite 23 app, and within there you'll be able to ask a question, vote on other people's questions, and I have my iPad here to look at some of those questions. I can see that people have already been asking stuff, which is good.
Good.
So I'm going to kick us off with the top voted question, which is, what do you see as the biggest challenge to overcome when communicating? Oh, the top voted question's just changed, so but I'll stick with that question. So what do you see as the biggest challenge to overcome when communicating at a global level where regional nuances need to be taken into account? How do you overcome that challenge?
I would say it's coordination, because even though we're able to thread in global comms, everybody still needs to be aware, and there's been hiccups, right? The global team pushes the button, and then the regions are like, what's going on over here? So, but I think it's good. I mean, it's sort of forcing us to work together, figure out a new way of governing how we disseminate information. And, again, don't forget our simplification program. It's to make it easier for the employee, even if maybe for us it requires a new level of governance or more sophistication in terms of how we manage our communications.
So there's a question there about governance as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your kind of governance approach?
So, first of all, I think as we're sort of in the process of our onboarding year, I would say our governance is in our training. So from the get-go, from the inception, give all the good guidance, all the best practices. And just for an example, our Latin American region, they talked about tropicalizing canopy. And we were like, whoa. And, they're adding icons everywhere. And so really, it's at the inception level that we're trying to bake in the governance. And then, of course, that's from the content perspective. But then also from the permissioning perspective, there's governance between global and regional communications teams. Then communication teams towards their stakeholders. There's another level of permissioning that happens. So, for example, in the UK, we've set up the workflow where content is being entered or edited, and the comms team, they're the only ones that have the right to publish. So it goes through that sort of workflow. So they're able to keep the content quality top-notch.
So when it comes to that the global and the local content, has there ever been a conflict? If not, how do you kind of strike the balance? Because I know we spoke a little bit about weaving in the global stuff. Maybe just kind of expand on trying to find that balance, because I know it's always difficult, and I know it's a challenge a lot of people struggle with.
Indeed. Yes, no, absolutely. There's been conflict and challenges because, everybody thinks that their own content is the most important and so on. So we're grappling with that. But I think the Unily platform for us is a linchpin to bring it together and force those conversations because, again, going back to our personas, having empathy for the employee, they don't want to visit 3 different websites to get content. They want to go to one place and consume the content or discover the content that's relevant to them. I don't think we found yet the perfect recipe. We're on a journey, so we're doing it. I think we can do it better, and I think it's something that we will forevermore be working on.
Yeah, I love the word linchpin. I haven't used that in ages, but what a great word. I think it's good there as well. Like I feel like whenever we have like case study type sessions, or you hear a lot of people's stories, they kind of brush over the wounds and make out that everything's perfect. But the reality is, in complex organizations, people are complex, employees are complex with different motivations and different levels of different teams with different priorities. Of course, there are always going to be those kind of challenging areas, and I think it's important that people just own up to them and be like, right, how do we make this better?
Exactly. So again, this is why we have this program, and we have a senior leader whose mantra is to simplify and to try to get back to doing what is in the interest of the employee, and that will always set us in the right direction.
Yes. Okay, so let's move on to a question about over here onto that one. So as part of your internal SEO approach, part of that is about, you said the topic tags, it's about tagging metadata so people can find that content. How do you come up with those tags? Are they organized in any way?
So I will say it's not about tags. It's incredibly simple. It's just make good content in plain English. That's accessible, and that's in the voice of your employees. This is in your voice of like regular people. And the system will automatically pick up. You don't need to think too much. Like unlike external SEO, where you actually have tags in the Unily system, it works a little differently. But if you just focus on making good quality content, simply.
That's one of my favorite things that anyone said today. So, ironically, you said it in good plain English, said simply. So well done. How do you foster that marketing mindset in your internal in people that work in internal comms? Or employee experience. I know you're, as you say, you don't think vertically like that, and that kind of adds value. But part of it's a mindset thing, and I know whether it's the beta, whether it's the area of beta, whether it's about search, whether it's about personalization, it's like a recurring theme around that marketing mindset. How do you make sure that you don't get back into those old ways?
So I think it's in the way that we architected the platform. So it's like we try to, it's like just the way that it is. I don't think I've ever gone to a meeting or talked to any comms leader to say, okay, we're going to have a marketing mindset and this is how we're going to do it. It's more, just talking about the best way of creating content, really. And I mean, actually, the same applies for external as it does internal. If you write the content in a way that people articulate the product, then the rest will just follow.
Okay. There's a question here which is around personalization and that kind of like targeted experience, thinking about, okay, the content I get in front of me, the experience I have is based on who I am, where I'm based, what role I'm in, if I'm in an office or if I'm not. So you've got so many different layers there. How central do you think that is to the success of the platform?
I think it comes through.
Personalization.
No, I think it comes through when we ask people if they're satisfied with what they have, and people don't realize that they're receiving personalized content. They just think that's the homepage. So I think it's more on the anecdotal, the fact that people are coming back. And we've had amazing feedback about what a great experience that it is. So
amazing. We've got time for probably one more question. There's another one about personalization, and I think you kind of answered that. If there was one thing you had done, oh yes, good question, Anon.
Yes.
If there's one thing you could have done differently throughout the process, lessons learned, what advice kind of would you have based on your experience? Tough one, isn't it?
Yeah. I would love to have more people on the team, definitely.
That is the classic, isn't it?
Yes. I think as we move through and we realize that we have a kind of recipe for success is to be prescriptive, and so it's a bit counterintuitive, but to really make people understand, like, follow the process and the good things will come.
Yes.
So I think that sometimes it's hard to do because we have a kind of influencing role, right? Like the teams that we work with don't report into us.
Yeah.
So I would say it's that. And then as well, I think a key to our success is being agile. Like, so if we see something is not working right away, we try to change. But if we can do that even faster, so whatever doesn't work, don't let it fester and just keep going and
keep going. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we have time for in this session. So in terms of where you next need to go, you can see on the screen we've got our comms, our deep dive, and tech session. I'm going to be staying in here, and I'll be with Pearson. Actually, some of the strands, you set up a nice story that marketing mindset will really come through in the Pearson session. And please, for now, join me in thanking Anne-Marie from WSP.
Thank you. Thank you to you, Kaz.